Before we get started, I just want to alert everyone to an important video that you've just recorded that will not be available to the public. Here, you discuss the upcoming geopolitical shockwave of what you call the most significant development in international finance since 1971. But then you explain how anyone can position themselves to profit from this crisis. Our viewers can access that video at londonreal.tv/Jim, and I highly recommend that everyone go watch that immediately after our conversation. Jim, let's get into it. I'm increasingly concerned about a recession in the US and here in the UK, with our house prices falling for the first time in 11 years, and people are now predicting it to go down a shocking 10% in housing prices. Jim, are we already in a global recession?
That's a great question, Brian. The answer is probably yes. We never know for sure until after the fact, because you're in it, you got to wait for the data. Then in the United States, I mean, they're not the global arbiter, but in the United States, we have something called the National Bureau of Economic Research. It's based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's not a government agency. It's a private group of about 12 prominent economists, egghead types. And they're the ones who declare when the recession began and when it ended. But they're usually, it's like a year after the fact. It's like, maybe in the middle of next year, they'll say, recession started in the first quarter of 2023. We're like, thank you, we knew that. But it's usually over before they declare it. So I'm not waiting for the official arbiter. I look at a lot of other indicators, and they're almost uniformly bad. And they have very good track records of getting the predictions right. Not unlike the Fed, which is always wrong, always late. So without getting too technical, the Fed's looking at unemployment. And it's based on the so-called Phillips curve. It says, unemployment's down, inflation's up. If unemployment's up, inflation's down. That's the Phillips curve. You can draw it, and the Fed's using that to guide policy. The Phillips curve is garbage, and it's not a personal insult against Professor Phillips. It's the case that there's no empirical support for it. I could give you examples going back to the 1930s of low unemployment, low inflation, which we had in the early 60s. 1930s, we had high unemployment, low inflation, even deflation. Late 1970s, what did we have? High unemployment and high inflation. That was called stagflation. So I can give you examples. If you think of it as a quad chart, unemployment, inflation, fill in the blanks. I could give you all four examples: low, 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 high, high, low, high, high, which means there's no correlation. If you can have any one of them, there's no correlation. So the Phillips curve has no predictive value on its face because the data doesn't back it up. Last time I looked at a Phillips curve, it was a flat line. At least where I went to school, curves were not flat, but there it is. Now, it's worse than that because unemployment, even if you thought it was a good indicator of something, particularly inflation, it's a lagging indicator or a lagging indicator of recession, as the case may be. So let's say you're an employer, a business person. I mean, you're an entrepreneur. I start businesses. When you're in a tough spot, when revenues are down and things are slowing down, margins are getting compressed and all that, the last thing you want to do is fire people because it took a while to find them, hire them, train them. You don't want to let them go. You do everything else. Like you turn down the lights, you call your landlord, negotiate a cheaper rent, slow pay your creditors, drive a hard bargain on something. You do everything else to maintain your margins. And then only when all else fails do you start firing people. So first of all, it's a lagging indicator. You're already in the recession before you get around to firing people, number one. Number two, because you held on so long, you tend to do it en masse. It's not like I'm going to fire one person a month for the next year. It's like I'm going to hang on to all of them and then maybe, sadly, fire them all at once because I have no other choice. So A, it's a lagging indicator. B, it can turn on a dime from very low unemployment to very high unemployment within a matter of months. And if that's what the Fed's relying on, which they are, they say so. It's not a guess. They say that's what we're watching. Two things. Number one, you're not going to see the recession coming. It's a lagging indicator, and it can go from kind of good to bad almost overnight. So the Fed's, driving this way, looking out the back window, and they're probably going to wreck the economy. But there are a lot of other signs to say, okay, Jim, unemployment's not a good measure, and it isn't. But how do you know what are the good metrics? They tend to be a little technical. They tend to be things that very few people look at, but they're there. They're not secret. The big one, I think this gets more notice, is an inverted treasury yield curve.
Hey, do you want to profit from crypto? Then join my DeFi Academy. The Crypto DeFi Academy will help you create generational wealth. But don't take my word for it. Listen to my students.
When I first got into crypto, I remember thinking to myself, I need to learn more. Brian Rose, learning crypto, learning DeFi, gotta do it.
I am so grateful that I jumped in and did this. I had to break through some limiting beliefs that I can do this, that I can afford this, that I can be in this.
It challenges the things that are deeply rooted within us.
Joining DeFi Academy has been one of the best decisions I have made on my blockchain journey.
This course was a life changer, a game changer, a huge eye-opener, coming from knowing practically nothing at the speed of the learning over 4 weeks was just fantastic.
The information you provided in this class was invaluable.
I feel far more confident in my next steps.
You took complex concepts and made them easier to understand.
What's different than so many other ones is it just doesn't tell you what to do. It actually makes you do it.
This is for people who are serious about becoming traders. This is the way it should be done.
I realized from this learning experience again that it is not about what you learn, but about who you learn it from.
The energy was insane. I've never experienced such incredible energy on a live call. Brian Rose, you are a legend, my friend.
It's the only thing in the market where you can get all information and learn everything what you need to know.
Everything is so clear and so well done, and I'm just forever grateful for this program.
It made me feel so much more confident about crypto than I did before.
I did not anticipate how passionate I was going to become about it.
This course has been like a big learning experience for me, not just in the crypto space, but just in overall balance of life.
What I've learned is, how to take ownership, of my life in a way that I really hadn't before.
Yeah, you can't put a price on that, really.
I would recommend it to anybody, top notch.
Excellence does not come cheap. So if you want excellence, you gotta pay for it, but it's so worth it.
Pull the trigger. That's what this course is about.
You're not going to regret it, really. It's amazing.
Thank you, Brian and team.
So what are you waiting for? Crypto is happening now. Click the link below, submit your application, and let me mentor you on how to create generational wealth and build the decentralized financial infrastructure of the future.